on a young man trying to make his first show in Riley Woodard. The only other thing we know is that either Patrick Dombrowski or Darren Tang are going to be on the show as well. Let's get on out to the lanes and get this final round of 8 started.
All right, PBA players, your practice time is now over. No more deliveries, please.
The other thing we must say here tonight before we get started is with this unique format of these 4 head-to-head best-of-7 matchups is that Chris Vi is already on the show because the highest seed left that does not win their match will be the number 5 seed on the show. Vi being the number 2 seed, the highest seed left, he will make the show. But if he wins his match, he gets to be the top seed. In pecking order from there, Darren Tang would be next up. If Vi wins his match, then Darren Tang is guaranteed to be on the show as the number 3 seed. Austin Grammer, our 4 seed, is still left. He's taken on Shota Kawazoe. And then from there, it would be the number 6 seed, Patrick Dombrowski, would be next up, followed by Riley Woodard, should things shake out that way here this evening.
Round of applause for our final 8 players to send them off. Bowlers, good luck and high score this evening.
Before we get too far along here tonight, shout out to ABC Gates Bowl for hosting our event this year and to Surfside being our title sponsor here in New York at the New York Classic. We get started here, guys, with Matt Sanders taking on Chris Prather. Sanders, the number 24 seed, taking on number 17 seed Chris Prather. And then right next door we have Chris Vi, number 2 seed, as we mentioned, taking on Riley Woodard, the number 7 seed.
And remember, folks, Sanders, the lone southpaw left in this final 8, and if he has a look, he's going to be tough to beat. The only one on that side.
Rock Set, The Look, one of my favorite songs all time, Randy. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I think it was interesting what he said after his match this morning was the front started to go and the back end's got a little bit tight down lane, so we'll see how he combats that tonight, if that indeed happens once again.
Players are bowling on HPL lanes here. They were installed in 2001. Pretty high friction. Also, this bowling center, we haven't mentioned it this week, at least I haven't, home to the Bud Light Challenge, another great event up here in the Northeast. It's very prestigious to win. They've got all the winners up by the front door. Also, this center is going to be hosting the Summer Series, the PWBA Rochester Summer Series, coming up May 26th through June 1st. The point I'm making, they're very committed to high-end professional bowling and great amateur events. So that's awesome here at ABC Gates Bowl. I want to welcome in not only our audience here on BowlTV, but we're also on PBA YouTube channel for a game, so you're watching a preview of BowlTV here this evening. We're glad you're with us as well. If you'd like to subscribe and watch all the competition, we'd love to have you over at bowltv.com. You can sign up for our plan.
Chris Vi, a little farther right than he's been. He's been a little closer to 10, 11 most of the time. A little farther right. In five games so far in match play, so far Vi's averaging 228.2. So Chris has a good look.
We have all the matches covered for you here on BowlTV. You can pick and watch where you want to go, but here on the main, we move around, and we move around now. Here is Shota Kawazoe. He is your number 21 seed, taking on number 4 seed Austin Grammer. And we got Patrick Dombrowski, the number 6 seed, taking on Darren Tang, your number 3 seed.
Shota, absolutely the sentimental favorite coming into tonight. And not the only one that's saying that about Shota. There's tons of folks, including all of his people back in Japan, that would absolutely enjoy him winning a title here stateside.
I think something we have to keep our eye on in this match as well is that Austin Grammer really didn't have to move a whole lot in his last match. I think with Shota just being a hair to the left of him with a little bit of surface, going left or right, he could get Austin off of that spot, and we haven't seen him play left of 10 yet, so this match could get a little interesting if he gets Austin off of that spot, which I could see happening.
Saw a lot of the players using surface in practice, taking those Aberlon pads and really scuffing up the urethane balls.
Guys, it's 7:02 a.m. over in Japan right now, so good morning to our Japan audience.
13 hours ahead. Yeah, I did the math.
It's great to be working with astute colleagues like yourself, Randy. Thank you so much for that.
More useless information for you. Tang off to a rough start here in game one. Shota Kawazoe, built like a Sherman tank, this guy.
Sure is.
And when was the last time you saw a four-step approach on the PBA Tour?
You don't see it very much anymore.
Obviously, we've seen Ethan Fiore going from 3 to 5, but, I mean, he's standard four-stepper. That's how I learned to bowl. I mean, that's how far back that goes.
And on a four-step approach, when you start your right foot going on a four-step approach, you move the ball with your first step?
Correct.
And on a five-step approach, it's a timing step, the first step. You don't really move the ball?
Yeah, right. So it's just a four-step approach, and you just add that first step. Notice how he moves the ball with that first step. And we used to think of it as a string being tied from the bottom of your hand or the back of your hand tied to your big toe on your right foot if you're right-handed. And they had to move together. They couldn't move independent of one another.
Darren Tang almost pockets 7-9, just leaves a 7-pin there. And, guys, we've been talking about it. You know, last week we saw high scores. This week, lower scores. It's because of the 38 feet in length bear pattern, which doesn't really allow for much miss room to the right or the left. You get it going up the lane too much, you go high. You send it a little bit to the right, and it's kind of like pick your poison. Sometimes it'll recover because there's no oil outside of the second board, third board. Hardly at all. It really bounces off, but sometimes it'll just lay there.
And in the earlier match that Darren had against Thomas Larson, farther it went into the match, his look got better and better and better. So it's interesting. Austin looking down right there. You got to remember, Shota's going a little bit left to right, 10-11 to 3-4, which he's pushing the oil into that break point where Austin's at, so it could get a little wiggly in that spot. So we'll see. He's already looking down at, because that ball didn't really read it the same way that it had previously.
Guys, we take a look at our bowler of the day. Earlier today, we just revealed one clue, so tonight we're going to power through our clues. Right now, our clue is one PBA title, and our new clue is made PBA Tour telecast in 4 consecutive decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So for that player to only have one title, but yet make the telecast 4 decades in a row, that must mean they're a pretty good bowler and maybe had some bad luck on television? I don't know. But we'll have two more clues for you coming up here this evening, and you can get your guesses in on that keypad right above our chat over on BowlTV.
He's just kind of inching in off of that spot, Jimmy.
Yep, I'm telling you. Now I love the psychology of match play. Now Shota's got the best look. Now Austin has to get him off of that spot.
Right.
You know, he's already changed him a little bit for Austin, but at some point he can't let Shota just keep inching a little bit to the left and, have a free-for-all where he can just keep striking every game. So I think that's going to be a very strategic match, and that favors Shota.
Shota finally off the strike train, leaving the bucket. 2, 4, 5, 8. Dombrowski going along nicely. Tang looking to find something.
He's going to do the same thing to Dombrowski that Shota is doing to Grammer. Watch.
Nice cover.
Guys, another thing we got to remember in this Riley Woodard-Vi match, Riley Woodard had 530 and 550 the first two games, the first two rounds of this tournament. So his look on the fresh has been really good. It wasn't great last match, but it appears to be pretty good in that match as we start going forward here.
Notice all the players on those two pairs have all filled frames. And
a lot of nines.
All 9 counts. That's a good sign for these players being lined in.
The only thing that's going to slow Sanders down in that spot is when he creates his own transition. You know, it pushes down a little bit in game 2 and 3 where it'll get a little bit tighter in the mid lane and not quite hook as much, so he has to get through that. It's getting too steep now. He's got to get the angle a little bit straighter. He's starting to get away from him. He went bucket 2-8.
Yep.
You know, he's just shaping it too much. Cheat his feet back a little bit to the right and he'll be right in action.
Nice cover by Dombrowski.
Cutting the 2 into the 10 nicely.
He beat A.J. Johnson in his last match, and Tang beat Thomas Larson. Whoa. Got behind it. Darren did a really good job of closing the games against Thomas Larson. We'll see if he can continue that trend against Dombrowski.
What's been interesting is how much back and forth has been going on with these matches where one player starts off red hot, the other player looks like they're going to get smoked in that game, and then all of a sudden there's a missed spare, and the other player that looked like they were left for dead throws a string together and steals that game.
Showed it looked like he had full control of the match.
Yep.
Austin strikes right here. He's in the lead.
That was definitely more up the gut.
Yeah, he squared up on that one.
One thing to keep in mind here this evening as we watch these players compete against each other is, you know, the storylines of familiarity with making television. Prather's been there before. Matt Sanders has the one title with a plastic ball. He would like to win a title on TV that's not been a streamed event. You look at Chris Vi. He's got the one singles title, got the Lucy last year, looking for his second singles title. Riley Woodard, no TV experience whatsoever. Those things matter, especially as we get later on throughout the evening. The nerves can come into play. Not just your ball reaction and how to play the lanes, but you've got what's going on between your ears also coming into play.
Yep. Yeah, remember, every shot thrown is telling your brain something, right? And so the players always go by location and feel. So if it feels really good off your hand, you know the location was really good around the target you're looking at. If it doesn't react the way that you were expecting it to react, then there's an adjustment that's going to be made. So, for example, I peer it off my hand, I hit my target, and I go a little bit high. I'm walking back, looking at that fork, and walking backwards off the approach, going, okay, I got to make a move on that lane. So there's this constant micromanaging and adjusting that goes on throughout a game.
Chris Vi feeling pretty good, building off the momentum of making the show last week.
In the Prather-Sanders match, you got to remember, Sanders made the show 2 weeks ago in the Masters. So, I mean, he's trending in the upward direction. I think Prather's going to be in the spot like Kyle Troop was. He hasn't really had a good run in singles in year and a half or so, so maybe he's got a little added pressure on himself as well.
And we look over here at Darren Tang. You know, he's got a lot of things going on too. He could make history. He's won a title with his thumb in the ball. He could be the first player in PBA history to win with a thumb in the ball and as a two-hander. Dombrowski, the hotter hand this year, who won the U.S. Open. Grammer's never made television, and Shota, you nailed it earlier, Randy. For him to win in the States, that would be a big deal.
The one other interesting thing is that Dombrowski's the only guy that's won this year, so we could have an 8th different champion this week.
And it's too early, but maybe not too early to talk about Player of the Year. You get 2 wins under your belt.
Oh, you could lock it right up, I think.
Well, I mean,
a major being one of them.
You're at least the leader.
Oh, you're in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
That was farther right, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think he's realized that, hey, I can only go so far, and then he loses, you know, the middle of the lane gets too tight for him.
Now a chance to lock up game 1 for Shota.
This is how the kid looked the last 3 days on the fresh. Hangs around with Manny Farrell and Clay Reese and all those guys from Utah. Bowls everywhere, Riley Woodard does.
Got to give a shout out to the Hare, Craig Harrington and Troy Waring,
Yeah,
and
there's
all
a
those
ton
guys
of
out
them.
in Utah. Matt
Yeah.
Schellemarger.
Well, that was in. Well, that was big time in, but it was up the lane and in.
Yep.
All right, one more for Shota to get to the 240s.
Testing.
And Darren throwing a test, or excuse me. Yeah, Darren throwing a test shot on that left lane. He's going to go down 1-0.
Yep. Dombrowski gets a slash. This is for the shutout for Shota here.
.237 is all Austin Grammer can bowl. Still a nicely bowled game, clean game, all 9 counts. But Shota right here, as you mentioned, this is a shot he needs to go up 1-0. Gets the mixer.
Pretty good there. So a little back and forth for Shota.
Probably made 2 or 3 adjustments at that match, Randy.
Yeah.
You know, cheating a little left and then had to go back and just dialing it in. It seems like he's got a good look right now.
Chris Vi trying to apply some pressure here. See if Shota can get 5 here. Ooh, 7. That's enough. So Vi can bowl this 239 game, and Riley can bowl 257. He can strike out to make Riley have to throw the first one in the 10th.
Chris has had a solid look all the way through, whether it's moving in or here. Chris finished stronger. Riley started better. So the quicker that Riley can get out here and, you know, maybe get a 1 or 2 game lead, you know, and hold on while Chris's look is going to get better and better and better.
Yeah, and I think this sounds really weird to say, but I just got this feeling that if Chris Vi, you know, strikes out bowls 230, and even if he gets beat, I don't think it's going to phase him one bit. He's going to feel very happy with this game, even though he may be down 1-0.
I think he's got a really good blueprint of, you know, what's going to happen with the lanes, and, you know, he's going to be comfortable, you know, just going across the lane like he has been.
He definitely wanted that one, though. You could see the emotion right there. Because he knows they're trying to make him just throw a strike. Riley in this situation, the youngster, not easy to throw a strike when you need it here on the PBA national level.
He knows the numbers. I mean, the guy's look, you know, he knows that Riley's, I'm sorry. He knows that Riley's got a good look on the fresh. He doesn't want to let him get out, you know, 2-0 or whatever it may be. I think Randy's got the prediction of the week. Lefty over there just hanging out by himself. Just got to stay away from his own transition. That's the only thing that could slow him down a little bit.
Or stay ahead of it.
Correct.
Riley does still need a mark here.
Not a gimme. That is a nice orange shirt.
It really is. I feel like going to one of my favorite places of all time, Orange Julius, right now.
Old school.
I'm ready to go to the mall, guys. Look at that. Double fist with thumbs.
Kid doesn't look too scared, does he?
No. Well, and I think, you know, we've talked about this too. These kids that come out here, they are polished rookies.
Yep.
Or seasoned rookies, if that makes sense at all, because they've bowled so much stuff on patterns at home, college, junior gold, all the other great youth events throughout the country.
And think about it. He knows how good his look's been on the fresh, so, you know, that gives you a little bit of extra added confidence as well.
The learning curve isn't near as big as it used to be for these young players that come out on tour.
So just to recap game number one, Matt Sanders 1-0 over Chris Prather. Shota Kawazoe up 1-0 over Austin Grammer. It's Patrick Dombrowski up 1-0 over Darren Tang. And Riley Woodard 1-0 over Chris Vi. And folks, once again, we want to thank you for tuning in to this broadcast over on PBA YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to the PBA YouTube channel. And to those of you watching on BowlTV, make sure you subscribe to the PBA YouTube channel for classic telecast, tournament highlights, exclusive content, including live streams. Go to youtube.com/PBA to subscribe to the biggest bowling channel on YouTube. And also make sure you tune in before and after the shows on CW, as there's a great pre- and post-game show over there. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in on PBA YouTube. We're going to say goodbye to you for now. We invite you to join us over on BowlTV at bowltv.com. And to our BowlTV audience, we are still live with you, and you can still pick your channels as we move into game number 2. Oh, Darren Tang almost 7-10s. We've seen the non-entry angle 7-pin, meaning the ball not creating enough angle off the end of the pattern, and we've seen the 7s either fall late or stay up, more so than we see on a normal occurrence out here on tour.
Definitely so. I think it's actually burning up and going forward a little bit from the out because we're using the current oil, which is a little bit higher viscosity, which